I'm Marc Silber. I'm an author and photographer in Carmel, California. And our show today is brought to you by Bay Photo Lab. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is critiquing your guys' photographs. So without further ado, here we go. Jared, tell us about this
All
photograph.
right. Starting off, we've got a photo from our friend Amir. This is in the Marina Bay in Singapore, sunrise, long exposure with a 10 stop ND filter.
Wow, interesting. I really like this photograph. I like I'm a big fan of reflections, and symmetry is one of the big tools that it opens up there for you. There's something about symmetry. Our eyes just go to it. We love symmetry. The early morning light is really cool. It's got that, golden hour look, which is awesome. And the only just slight thing I would probably do is just darken the clouds there in the background. I just probably make that a little darker. I would probably just pull a gradient filter down and just try to darken that. Or if you're in Lightroom, you can mask the sky. That's probably the best way to do this. Or Photoshop. You can mask the sky. Just make it a little darker. Yeah, that's the only thing. It's just tiny bit. I would just touch that up. But I love the smooth water, the reflections. There's reflections all over the place. There's a reflection on that right hand. Yeah, whatever this is over there. That's really cool. The reflection of the poles on the left. There's lots of reflections. Great job. And that's my only tiny little thing. Maybe just tweak that a little bit. All right. Good one, Amir. Who's next?
Our next
What?
one is from Oliver. I believe I hopefully said your name right, and I know he's in the audience. Uh,
Oh,
oh,
that's my phone ringing. Sorry, you guys. Okay. I don't know why it's ringing in my. Is that ringing on TV too? I'll just turn this off. Okay. All right.
the
Sorry
fun
about
of a
that.
live show.
Yeah.
Um, this is a picture of a church in a city that unfortunately I can't pronounce, but it's in Iceland. And I know Oliver's in the audience, so if he wants to provide any other details, then he can
Yeah.
feel free to.
It's really remarkable that red roof is just pops right out, and also that red fence there, and against the green, those are pretty much complementary colors, so they balance each other really well. There's that's to me, you're using color as a composition tool, which is another thing I mentioned in my composition book. And the church is the subject. I mean, your eye just goes right to it. Remember the first thing I mentioned in my last show was not having a subject. Well, you've got a clear cut subject here. And the balance between sort of these man made, the buildings, and then you go back, because my eye is first drawn to the church, then it kind of goes, yeah, sort of this mid area, the mid ground, and then the background here of those amazing kind of cliff shaped things. So there's a big kind of juxtaposition between, the sharp angles of the church and the background, almost mimicking it in a certain way. If you think about it, those are almost like spires back there, from a natural setting. It's a great photograph. Well done. So yeah, you've really used your tools well.
All
Good
right.
one.
Our next one, this is from our good friend Lou over in the UK. And let me
Nice one, Lou.
find. They put just after sunrise, Castor on Sea Beach. First time I've been out for a sunrise in a while. Not much color, but great to be out.
Beautiful. And you've got a leading line which doesn't lead directly to the sun, but it leads us in that direction. I'm wondering, Lou, what would have happened? I mean, it's great. It's a really powerful composition. the leading, the leading line, yeah, right there with this, whatever this odd docking kind of setup is. I don't quite understand it, but it's interesting. And then, of course, the sun. I wonder what would have happened if you had moved the sun a little more in connection with, yeah, just taking another. I'm just, I'm just thinking out loud what that would have looked like. But it's a great shot, no matter what. It really is, because it's really two leading lines converging in a way. So you've got the zigzag, yeah, and then you've got the leading line of the sun itself leading to the sun. The sun is the subject. It's the hero of the photograph. It's what your eye is definitely drawn to, and the color, that the zigzag line adds feeling of motion. Beautiful, good one, awesome.
And what's this? Your subject can be not in the rule of thirds
True. Oh yeah.
area.
What do you? Yeah, exactly.
Just tiny little bit over there.
No, that's great. Yeah.
We've got one. This is by Sandy. Just put it up a little bit ago. This was taken in Thailand. Sunset taken with a IMAX 13 or iPhone 13 Max.
There we go. IMAX. I was thinking, wow,
Yeah, not an
new,
iMac.
a new camera. So yeah, taking with an iPhone. Okay, good. So it's a great photograph. I would like to see. I think what could take it to the next level. Yes, the palm tree is the subject, but I think it'd be interesting to see perhaps at the base a person, a bike riding by, a dog running by, because you've got a perfect set. This is like beautiful, but what would add the next element? Something moving through the frame or sitting in the frame, a bird flying through, a bicycle. So, I've mentioned this before, oftentimes you find yourself in a location that's just got this incredible background. It's a beautiful set. And you might have to stand there for 15 minutes until something moves into your frame. Don't be so ready to just walk on, because you've got something that's amazing. It's like a painting almost. But let's add that next element of a subject there that really pulls your eye in. And I mean, I can just see a bicycle riding through here, for instance, or a person running through it, or a dog running through it. To me, that would complete this and make it rather amazing. But thank you, and just keep shooting. Be patient too. In every location, sometimes you do have to wait.
All right. Here is an image that was just submitted, and I know Sue is in the audience, so this is from Sue of her dog.
Well, I'm a huge golden retriever fan. You guys, if you follow me on Instagram, which you should be doing, you'll see too many photographs probably of my Goldens, my dog River, and my previous dog Shyla. So this is a cool photograph because we've got the wind kind of blowing, and it's this is a more mature Golden than mine. Mine is a year old and she is deep into puppydom, mischief. But this, I'm going to say, dog seems very mature. And it's a cool portrait. I love taking portraits of animals because I feel like they do respond just like people. They know when they're getting their photograph taken. I mean, I've done this with dogs and deer and various bobcats and different animals, horses, sheep, goats. They respond to communication just like people. It's a very interesting thing. So anyway, that's just a nicely framed, in the path. There's your framing. And the bushes kind of on either side also form a frame. And then your background. I might, just darken that background a little bit. just to add a little more contrast. Yeah, and that'd be really easy again in Photoshop or Lightroom. Just mask the clouds and the sky. Just mask the sky and just pull it down a little bit. It'll make the dog pop out even more. And that's one of the cool things you can do with that masking feature is just select, different areas of the photograph and just pull it down a little bit, the exposure down, maybe the highlights down. That might do it. It just sort of depends. I generally don't pull the exposure down. I just pull the highlights down. And so that's what I would probably play with there, just to add a little more contrast. It would bring the dog out a little bit more, give us another feeling of a layer, a little more of a layer feeling. But that's my only little slight tweak there. Otherwise, just beautiful.
All right. Our next one, this is from Guadalupe. Took this a couple of weeks ago. I love taking pictures of clouds. There was also a plane flying just above the clouds.
Yeah, beautiful black and white. It's a portrait of a cloud. It's funny, when I interviewed Camille Seaman, who is a fantastic nature photographer, one of her primary things is taking portraits of icebergs. And she's a Native American. She said, look, I was brought up that everything has life to it. A rock, a tree, a building, a cloud, an iceberg. There's life there. And when you're taking a photograph of it, you're not just taking a photograph, you're taking a portrait of it. And there's your subject. Clear-cut subject is the cloud. And it is a portrait of this cloud. The black and white works absolutely perfectly. I'm noticing at the bottom edge there's tiny little like fence or something. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Kind of adds a tiny little punctuation point almost. But the dynamic range is awesome here. I'm curious what editing software you use, because you've really pulled the range. Ansel Adams talks about the zone system where you have a pure black and a pure white, and I'm pretty sure you've got the full range there. You definitely got a pure black up there, yeah. And I see what to me looks like pure white, and that's always going to be an effective and dramatic way to show any kind of photograph, but especially with this one. So well done. We've got time for a few more, Jerry.
Yep. All right. This next one, this is from Grace. This was taken in San Francisco, and it was part of an assignment for class of learning how to use the Lightroom HSL panel. So kind of messing around with the color and such.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an exercise, I think that, I don't know what it started out as, so it's kind of hard to tell. It reminds me of an old film look, maybe with a really cheap camera. Kind of a throwaway camera. That's kind of my first thought, or an old Polaroid almost.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty desaturated. I mean, there's a little bit of color in it. It's not completely desaturated because you can see a little bit. So you played with that saturation, and it kind of gives you that old film look, old Polaroid look, which is an interesting look. And good. So it's an experiment, and I want you guys to experiment. That's actually really important. You're never going to break into new things if you keep doing the same thing. I have a whole photograph I'm trying to create, and there's a little bit of a mechanical thing. I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but it's something I definitely, when I get it figured out, I'll show you guys. And I think it'll be interesting. Arnold Newman, one of my favorite photographers, actually did a bit of these, and it's not done very often, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it. But anyway, experimentation is absolutely something you guys should be doing. All right, I think we've got time for one or two more.
All right, we just had this one submitted. This is from Susie. Early morning light in my backyard in Athens, Ohio.
Wow, very stunning. I mean, the light is incredible, just gorgeous. Those are called God's rays when they're coming through like that in the mist, and it's just you got it framing, you got everything perfect in there, and good one, Susie. I only would hunger for a subject in the frame. I mean, the light itself is fantastic, so don't get me wrong. But it's just one of those where if there were a bird or a deer or you even, don't forget, you guys, you can walk into the frame. And it's actually something you should be thinking about. If you have nobody around and you want to put that subject into the frame, then you be the subject. Put your camera on a tripod, set it for a long exposure, or not a long exposure, but a timer. Walk into the frame and try that a few times until you get it right. But it's something you should always consider, because what is it? There's just something about adding that human or animal into the photograph that really makes it pop. You've got a beautiful setup there, so just consider that next time. Take a tripod with you. It's probably the main reason you want to carry a tripod around, is so that you can do that. All right, one or two more, Jared.
All right. This one is from our friend Robin Mitchell, who does amazing landscapes. And the little caption he put with this one was, "Not a bad spot to camp."
Yeah, reminds me of all my backpacking trips, mountaineering trips. Boy, over 50 years ago, actually, yeah, about 51 years ago, I was an instructor at the National Outdoor Leadership School when I was 19, just turning 20. And this is the kind of place that I spent the entire summer from May to the end of August, I think. Yeah, so the tent does give us a punctuation point. The clouds, yeah, the clouds are, you've darkened them, and I like that. And you've got, it's just it's got interesting elements to it. I'm pretty much going to say the same thing. What if you moved into that frame though? Because the tent alone, okay, but put yourself in the frame. You might have to carry a little tripod with you. Sometimes you can improvise and you can just put the camera on a rock. And I've done that plenty of times. Set your timer, your self timer, walk into the frame. Try that out. It's a tool. I want you guys to, test these things out. Okay, one more, Jared, and we got to end off for today.
All right, our last one. This is from our friend Saad, and he titled this one "The Musician."
I like it. I like the kind of its blown outness, with the white walls.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my tiniest critique is get that tripod out of there. It just distracts. You can do it in post, but just remember you're responsible for everything in the frame. Bob Holmes. So if there's an element there that's not going to add to the photograph, get it out of there. Just pick up that tripod and move it out of the way. Same thing with that little blue cloth. Yeah, just get rid of that. You could do that in post. And that just cleans it up. And because it's a really interesting photograph. The paintings in the background, the two lutes, I guess they're lutes. Those are very interesting. He's tuning on his iPhone, I see. That's kind of cool. But you can probably get rid of that tripod in post. It's going to be a little tricky where the painting is, but with content aware and Photoshop, you might be able to pull that off. But just when you're going to press the shutter, just look at all the edges. Bob Holmes says, don't forget the edges of the frame. But look at the frame and see if there's anything you don't want in there. go in there and get rid of it. We're not talking about a documentary photograph where you're just sort of maybe we are. If we are, then my comments don't hold. But I'm thinking you're just capturing this guy. I like his blue hat against the red. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But just remember, final lesson for today, you guys. You're responsible for everything in the frame. And if you see something in the frame you don't like, change it. And if you see something you need to add to the frame, like walking into it yourself, do it. It's art. You create that art form, and it's totally up to you to do that. So thank you guys, every one of you. I love what I'm seeing. Keep putting them in the AYP Club. This is kind of how I interact with you guys. We gather up a bunch and then I'll give you, kind of a live critique, which I'd rather do than sit there and type things because, I can say it a little easier this way. So keep this up. We'll do these periodically. So awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and enable the bell. Leave your comments, share them. We love it when you guys share, and when you leave your comments, we'll answer those comments. Thank you guys. And last but not least, remember to get out and capture your own images of life.